Hey folks, so you may or may not have seen the video entitled Morning Quick Pick, Buying Antiques from a Farmstead, and on that video I bought this tin. So anyway, it's actually a fairly scarce oil tin. You'll notice that it has Ford on it as well as the manufacturer, which is Imperial Oil Company. Anyway, it's a scarce tin and worth a fair bit of money. And now, in the video, I said it was worth about $400 to $500, which is about what I figured at the time, and had seen previous ones sell in the past. And I was mistaken. Some recent sales indicate that the value has gone up somewhat dramatically. Anyway, I paid $200 based on the idea that it was worth $400, maybe $500 once it was cleaned up. But in the end, I was able to sell it for $1,000. That's Canadian funds, but $1,000 Canadian. And yeah, so the tin is, like I said, a very scarce can. So what do you do? As a dealer, I was invited in to buy items. The seller obviously was relying on me to make a fair offer. Now, at $200 for a $400 can, that's a fair offer. However, the $200 for a $1,000 can isn't quite a fair offer anymore. So, being that I was able to sell it for $1,000, I am going to be paying the seller another $300. I'm happy with a $500 profit. That's worthwhile to me. Another $300, I'm sure, will make him very happy, considering he was very happy with the $200. Not expecting a can to be worth $200. Now, would you do that? Once you've bought it, is the deal done? Or, because, like I said, they've invited you in to make a fair offer on items. So, is it a fair offer anymore once you find out it's worth substantially more? This was my mistake. I didn't find very current values at the time. The condition of the can was actually a little better than I expected as well, so it's worth more than $400 or $500 obviously now. Previous ones, I had found one on WorthPoint that had sold for $740 Canadian that was in poorer condition. So that's when I realized I made a mistake, and the can is probably worth $1,000. So, what do you do? Like I said, my initial plan is to pay the seller another $300, which makes it a fair offer at that point. So, I know some people would say, "Well, you're crazy. You shouldn't give him any more money, etc., etc." But like I said, that's just the way I roll. When things get a lot more than I expected, I even it up. It's worked out well for me, and it's gotten me other referrals, gotten me other stuff, etc., etc., etc. I'll tell you a quick story about one case where that happened. Early on in my career, I was out picking and stopped at this little tiny town just off the highway, off the major highway down through Canada, #1 highway, the Trans-Canada, and stopped in this little town and spotted a gas pump in a farmer's yard, kind of a small farmyard. And I drove in, and as I was driving in, the farmer came out of the house, and without even getting out of the truck, I looked at this gas pump and I asked him if I could buy the signs off of the gas pump. And to which he said, "Oh, well, I don't know." And I said, "Well, I'll tell you what, let me take a look at the sign and then I'll make you an offer and you can say yes or no. He said, oh, okay. Well, I guess people have been offering him $5 and $10 for quite some time. And I looked at the sign. There turned out to be two signs on either side of the pump, two Sky Chief Petrox signs and two little porcelain signs. And this was back in the 90s, early 90s. So quite some time ago when the signs weren't worth a lot of money at the time. I offered $80 for the two signs and the two small signs on the side that say this pump contains leaded fuel. At the time, those little signs were worth about $15 a piece. The Petrox signs were worth about $65 each. So I was making a fair offer for what it was, and considering condition as well. So anyway, he was like, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, do you have screwdrivers? When I made him the offer. And I said, yeah, I've got screwdrivers and such, no problem. So he was watching me take these signs off the pump, and he said, you know, I think I've got the glass piece for the top of this pump. And I thought he meant the inserts for the top of the pump because they were missing. The glass inserts that say this pump, or that say Texaco Petrox fuel. And they were just inserts at the time that went on either side of the pump. But anyway, I'm taking off the signs, and in the end, I look over as I'm finishing up, and he's coming out with a globe. And I'm thinking it's going to be, in the most, if it was a globe, it could have been a Sky Chief globe, which wasn't worth a lot at the time, maybe $300 or $250. But anyway, I thought about, that I'd be lucky if it was a globe. Well, I was extra lucky because what he brought out was a North Star brand energy globe. So it was North Star Energy gasoline. Probably didn't belong to that pump, but very scarce globe at the time. It still is. That globe, I didn't know what it was worth at the time, so I told him, well, look, I think it's worth $400. It's got to be worth $400, so I'll pay $2. But if I find out it's worth significantly more, I'll come back with the difference. He said, yeah, okay, sure, no problem. That sounds fine. So I did that. I bought it, paid $200, and eventually I found a collector who was straight with me and gave me $600 for it, which is what it was worth at the time. That globe now is probably in the thousands, but neither here nor there. This was, like I said, in the early 90s, early in my career. So, anyway, the globe I sold for $600 to this collector. So, technically, I owed him, the seller, that is, another $100. Now, I was picking at the time using my grocery money to pick and flip my grocery money and turn it into double type thing. So that's what I was doing. So I was always seemed to be short on cash. Was lean years, but every time I went down the highway, I thought, I owe this guy $100. I owe this guy $100. So a year passes or so, and I'm out picking again, and I'm thinking, well, I still owe this guy $100, and I've got cash this time. I've got some excess cash. So I went down this little road to his place and knocked on the door, and he answered the door, and I said, you remember me? I bought that globe. Oh, yeah. And I said, I owe you $100 because I sold that globe for $6. And he looked at me kind of stunned, and then he said, you know what? He said, I'm retiring, and there's 2 flat decks of stuff in the shed, and I'm having an auction. Now, the auctioneer told me not to sell anything before the auction. He said, but go in there, pull out whatever you want, and give me an offer. So I went out and I bought, I found an Exide battery display and some other items. And then I went in the basement of the house. There wasn't much upstairs. There was china and that sort of thing, which I didn't want at the time. Still don't. And anyway, he said, well, like, is there anything down here type thing. So we had gone into the basement and checked out some Crocs. They were common ones, so I wasn't really that interested, and he could get just as much at auction as I could sell them for. Sorry for the interruption, folks. We just got a spam call. Anyway, so the Crocs, like I said, I wasn't interested in, and said, you'll get as much at auction as I can, as I'll get for them. So just sell them that way. But I did find a stack of McCall Frontenac letterheads. Now, a stack of paper letterheads about, I'd say maybe 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 inch thick. And the problem was they were glued together or bonded together across the top with some tar. So it's kind of a crapshoot as to what they were worth. McCall Frontenac stuff is good. Red Indian is the other name for the stuff. So McCall Frontenac items are, like I said, very good. And I said, well, I'm not sure I can get this tar off because it was solidified. So I wasn't too sure whether I could rescue these letterheads. But I said, like, they're worth $10, $15 a piece. So there's actually a lot of money here. And I said, but they're gobbed together with this tar, so I really don't know whether I'm going to be able to separate them and get the money for them. But they're still decent. So I'm not sure what I need to pay for them, like $10 or $15 for the stack at the moment. But if I get more, I can give you some more later. And he said, you know what? Just take them for that. I'm happy. You make some more power to you. So all that worked out in my favor. Giving the guy another $100 got me deeper in the door, able to buy more stuff, buy some other items, and eventually I sold the letterheads, I think, for $150 or something like that, as they were gobbed together with tar on the top. So I did fine. So it just goes to show that some of these actions really help. Paying a little more for something in the end or after the fact, and evening up to the amount that you should have paid in the first place, even though you were unable to or didn't know that the item was going to be worth more. So anyway, it pays. So paying more for this particular tin, I think, will, in the long run, help me with referrals and reputation, etc. Now, imagine if you had found out later that the tin had sold for $1,000 and I had only paid $200. Now, where would that put me? What kind of reputation would I have with that? One of the comments that he gave me when I called to let him know that I'll be paying him some more money was that you must be the most honest dealer around. Which I don't think is a bad reputation at all. But anyway, so that's the way it goes. That's the way I operate. Thanks for watching, guys. Please be sure to like and subscribe and comment below. Let me know what you think. Be sure to check out our other videos on antiquing, picking, thrifting, scrapping, etc. Take care, folks.